A very good evening to our listeners on Manx Radio AM 1368. I'm Rob Pritchard and welcome to Saturday Sports Classified here on Manx Radio, your weekly roundup of the weekend's football, rugby and hockey fixtures. We also have two live draws to bring you in both the football and hockey respectively later on. Right now, let's start with the classified results from across the Isle of Man today, starting with Manx football. The Canada Life Men's Premier League. Russian United 4, Union Mills 1. Douglas High School Old Boys versus Onchan postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Laxey 0, Corinthians 0. St George's 4, Ramsey 0. Peel 1, Ayr United 1. In DPS Limited Division 2, Michael United 1, Douglas and District 0. Douglas Athletic 0, Gyms 1. Castletown versus Braddon postponed due to waterlogged pitch. Colby 10, Governors Athletic 1. In Canada Life Combination 1, Union Mills versus Russian United postponed due to waterlogged pitch. Onchan versus Douglas High School Old Boys also postponed due to waterlogged pitch. Corinthians 2, Laxey 4. Ayr United versus Peel postponed due to waterlogged pitch. Douglas Roll 3, St John's 6. And in DPS Limited Combination 2, Douglas and District 1, Michael United 4. Braddon versus Castletown postponed due to waterlogged pitch. Maloo versus St Mary's also postponed due to waterlogged pitch. And Ramsey Youth Centre 2, Pulrose 2. Turning now to Isle of Man Rugby. The Regional 2 Northwest. Altrincham Kersal 26, Douglas 15. In the Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire League. Vagabonds 3, Ellesmere Port 10. In the Women's NC1 Northwest. Vagabonds 10, Southport 69. In the Ravenscroft Manx Trophy, Castletown 12, Ramsey Reds and Western Vikings 57. And Southern Nomads Greens 62, Ramsey Blues and Eastern Barbarians 24. Turning now to Isle of Man Hockey. The Ladies Premier League. Valkyries A 1, Castletown A 3. Backers A 2, Castletown B 1. In the Men's Premier League, Backers B 1, Valkyries A 3. Castletown A 2, Vikings A 1. Ramsey A 0, Backers A 13. In the Ladies Division 1, Valkyries B 4, Vikings B 2. Ramsey A 3, Backers B 3. Backers C versus Harlequins A, a rating result. Men's Division 1, Valkyries B 3, Vikings B 1. Harlequins B 0, Harlequins A 11. In the Ladies Division 2, Castletown D 2, Valkyries C 1. Vikings C 1, Castletown C 1. Ramsey B versus Harlequins B, awaiting result. In the Men's Division 2, Backers C versus Ramsey B called off, Backers C unable to field a team. And Backers Colts versus Castletown B, awaiting result. And in the Mixed Under-15s division, Valkyries 0, Harlequins 6. Backers 7, Ramsey Rogues and Rascals 0. Castletown Sharks versus Vikings, awaiting result. Those are your classified results across the football, rugby and hockey taking place on the Isle of Man throughout Saturday. Well, let's take a look at the football here. The league fixtures returning in earnest this weekend after the spotlight was very much on the ECAP FA Cup last time around with a smattering of league fixtures, but very much domestic competition back in focus this weekend. And joined as ever to take a look through this by Tony Meppen. Tony, very good evening.
Good evening, Rob. Just about thawing out. A little bit cold, wasn't it? But it hasn't spoiled too much football. Not too many shocks in the scores. But as we usually see at half-time, when a team has possession with the wind, it's sort of fruitful for them, score plenty of goals, and then in the second half, they're under the cosh a little bit. But all in all, it's been a good day of football. And hopefully next week we'll get a full programme with cup fixtures as well.
And we were all fingers crossed on Friday Sport Preview yesterday, weren't we? Because we knew that heavy rain was coming in overnight, and we did fear, didn't we, that a lot of games would be called off as a result of the conditions. We've seen it over the last couple of months. We have lost a couple of games to the weather today, but great to see that many of the games were able to go ahead. Yeah,
it is, and a lot of credit goes down to the ground staff. We don't have the luxury like Ben does on hockey, where it's artificial surface, so you've got that true surface to play against. And certainly today at Peel, when you look at it, the pitch was resurfaced 3-4 years ago, and the drainage and everything's good at it. It's in reasonable good condition, and right the way through. Not like St John's last night, that struggled a little bit whether that was there, but no, it's just one of those, isn't it? Sometimes you take a chance and you play on it, it cuts up. Other times you sit tight and leave it, and then the following week it's all nice and plenty of time to recoup. But now the games come through thick and fast. It won't be long before March is on us, and we've got night games coming in, so it's a question of get as many games played as we can.
We hope we can. Well, let's get right into it. We have a packed show this evening, not just taking a look at the results, but if you heard on Paul Moran's show on Saturday Live only before, we do have 2 live draws coming up. One of those in the football, in the GH Corlett Woods Cup, and also in the hockey as well, the men's and ladies cup, plate and bowl competitions. That's all to come. Let's take a look at the results then today. To start with, let's start with the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Rushden United hosted Union Mills, and Union Mills still smarting a little bit after that shock ECAP FA Cup exit to Douglas and District on penalties last week, and it appears that the hangovers continued here. They've lost to Rushden United by 4-1.
Yeah, we got a bit of a match report as well, and I'll just go through it. Much better from Union Mills today. A lot of very good possession, just couldn't convert the chances that they had. Russian supporters telling Union Mills that they were the better side, but 3 points dropped due to clinical finishing and a bit of sloppiness by Union Mills. Match heavily affected by the wind, which is the story of all games today, and both teams preferring to play against the wind, with 3 of the 4 goals being scored against the wind. Well done to referee John McCallum for his consistent approach to the teams, allowing the game to flow and sensible attitude to challenge. And a real good battle, and one of the goals was scored right towards the end. Well, it was Aaron Hawley who was the main threat today, scored on 39 minutes and then got a second on 92. But it was 2-0, I believe, to Russian at half-time. But it was Cameron Dudley who started it all off. He got his first one after 27. And Adam Kinley scored from the penalty spot on 52 minutes. And as we say, it was Jordan Corley who got Union Mills' goal on 55 minutes.
Very well, moving on, as mentioned just before, Douglas High School All Boys versus Onken. That was already postponed as of the other day due to a waterlogged pitch, so that hasn't taken place today. It'll be rescheduled. Moving on, Laxey versus Corinthians. Corinthians had the chance to close the gap today on Peel at the top of the table, and we were wondering, weren't we, what sort of Laxey side might turn up today, and they've certainly been a match with Corinthians today. No way through for Corinthians. It's finished goalless.
Yeah, and I think it's a fair result, really, to be honest with you, because I think when I look at Corinthians' squad, there was 1 or 2 players missing. Yes, they had Sean Doyle back, and great to see him come on 75 minutes it was. He came on, and, he's real struggle, hasn't he, with this injury. But hopefully that's behind him now, and he's coming back into strength and working his way to fitness for FC Isle of Man. But he couldn't get his name on the score sheet today. But Laxey, they had strength there today, absolutely, and I believe a couple of good chances that they had, but didn't run for them. But point shared, and Peel won't feel too hard done by with that draw against Ayr United.
Well, we'll come to Peel in a minute. Moving over to Glencrutchery Road, St George's desperately looking for points after what's been a poor start for them, particularly by their standards this season. They faced Ramsey, and St George's having a couple of key players over the last couple of years coming back to the fold, and it really paid off for them today. They've beaten Ramsey by 4-0.
Well, it did, and it just shows you when you've got a bit of quality back in the team how it can help things. And when I was looking at Johnny Myers's team today, and it really was sort of a lot stronger when you've got Carl Clark, you've got Morgan Naylor in there, Ash Higginbottom, you've got Chris Bass, Sean Quay, Kieran McNulty, Mark Connor, Mark Tier as well, Johnny Quirk. That's a really good team, and that's how it proved today for St George's. 2 goals for Chris Bass, 1 for Johnny Quirk and Kieran McNulty. So that puts St George's now on 8 points. They move alongside Old Boys, who are also played 9-4-8, but dropping into that horrible position. The 13th, the bottom place, is Moran, but Moran's still got a lot of games to play. They've only played 9 to St George's 11, so it's not panic stations, but it's all looking like it's going to be St George's, Moran, Douglas High School, Old Boys, and possibly Onken, who might just get involved at that battle at the bottom of the league.
And the final game in the Premier League today saw the current league leaders facing the defending champions Peel hosting Ayr United. Tony, this was the game that you were at out west, and it ended all square, 1-1.
Yeah, it wasn't a bad game, to be fair, and the first 20 minutes, Ayr United, I thought, looked very good. And it wasn't a surprise when Johnny Shields scored on the 9th minute to give Ayr United the lead. slip at the back by the defence, misunderstanding, and Johnny just fed through. And Owen Dawson looked good to make the save, but Johnny was clever. Just played it to his right-hand side, scooped it in with his right foot, and 1-0 it was to United. Then it was Jamie Callister at the back, Nick Hurt, the main spine through the middle, kept things nice and tight. And then in the second half, the wind was with Peel a little bit, and Peel looked quite strong going for goal. And it was Rhys Oates who got it from the penalty spot, no doubt about it. Anthony Page pointed the spot straight away. It was a bit of a clumsy challenge, and it was Rhys Oates who just boomed it through the middle, and the goalkeeper stood no chance. Couple of really good saves, Dan Kelly for Ayr United, also Owen Dawson for Peel. Punch shared, display-wise, looking at it, chances that they had, I think it's a fair result.
Did it seem like the Ayr United of last season dominated for large spells, and of course champions out there, not been quite the same for them so far this campaign, still pushing toward the top, but did it feel a bit more like the Ayr United we were used to seeing in the last campaign?
Definitely, but no Sean Kelly. Sean Kelly didn't play. I was surprised with that one because I believe he's not with FC Isle of Man now, so it was just a surprise not to see him there. But I think, one or two other players that have been missing. Declan Cummins is good, Johnny Shields is good, and Jamie Callister there. But, there's a lot of good young players coming through. I looked at Cameron Torr, very strong, Nathan Crane. They're whatever age they are, 18 years of age, so they'll come good. But it's just one of those. Last year was an awesome season for them. They'll never forget that. And now it's just a question of bringing the younger players through, get back up to that mark again, and I'm sure they can push for it the way the league's set up at the moment.
Very well, those are your results from the Canada Life Men's Premier League. Let's move on to DPS Limited Division 2, starting off with Michael United against Douglas and District. Michael United have been pushing toward the top of the table there for throughout the season so far, but coming up against the Douglas and District team who stunned Union Mills last week in the ECAP FA Cup. Michael United, Douglas and District brought back down to earth a little bit. It's been a very close contest, but Michael United win us by a 1-0.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this one, it was one of those. They had nothing to lose on this because they're not going to get involved in the league, and by all accounts it was a poor performance from what I'm hearing from Douglas and District, and they had 2 penalties saved, Mark Quirk with one, Ash Humphrey with the other one, so they had their chances to win it, but certainly today for Michael it was Harry Callister who was the star. He got the goal for them, and it was all important goal to get the points.
Equally close as well between Douglas Athletic and Jims. Jims just taking the 3 points, winning by a 0-0.
Yeah, and I've got a bit of a report on this one as well. Douglas Athletic 0, Jims 1. Sam Liver got the goal. 2 honest teams giving 100%. Jims shaded the first half when Sam Liver deflected the ball to give Jims the lead after 21 minutes. Douglas Athletic came out strong in the second half and had multiple chances and heroic goalkeeping by young Rhys Gillen enabled Jims to hold on for the win. Very difficult conditions with the referee Steve Dowdle controlling the game with a lot of experience and common sense. Well done, Steve. What a cracking game by the sound of it, even though it was only 1-0. It finished up for Jims, and as I say, it was Sam Liver with that goal.
Sounds like the scoreline didn't do it quite justice, but sounds like a very good report from there. Well, Castertown versus Braddon in Div 2 was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch, and the final game taking place in Division 2 today between Colby and Governors Athletic, who of course share the same facilities, but a real gap between the two in this one. Colby 10-1 winners. Yeah,
and it was 10-1 was the surprise scoreline for me, 6-0 at half-time, and it was Jim Gale with 2 goals. Jack Skillicorn got 1. Seb Spears got a couple of goals just before half-time. And then I think it was an own goal that made it the 6-0. Then it was the Jordan Edge show. Jordan Edge got the 7th, the 8th. Seb Spears completed his hat-trick with the 9th. And Jordan Edge it was with his hat-trick to make it the 10th. We didn't quite get the goal scorer that we needed to get the story out. But do you want the story?
We might as well. Enlighten us, Tony.
Right, basically what's happened is Jordan Edge and Ollie Edge play for the same team. Ollie Edge went to take his car out to drop his girlfriend off at the airport and his car's not there. His brother has not stolen the car, but he's borrowed his car. He's taken the keys and everything, and Ollie, his younger brother, would like his car back if possible. But Jordan's not answering the phone, and I did say to Ollie, if he scored today, that I will put a shout out to see if Jordan will bring his car back with a full tank of fuel, because evidently he returns it empty. And, if he's going to steal a car, steal his mum or dad's, but please leave Ollie's left alone, because he had to drop his girlfriend off at the airport in a scruffy van. So there you go.
You don't get these kind of stories in the Barclays Premier League across, do you?
Not at all. These are special.
Well, just before we move on, I actually just had a message about the Michael and D&D game. Michael winning by 1-0, and just a message to say that the referee, Rob Slinger, refereed the game extremely well, so always good to hear that as well.
Well, it is, and the story behind Rob, anyone that knew him, he's a great goalkeeper and a very passionate player. A booking or a red card wasn't sort of far away from him, but he's taken up the refereeing and is absolutely tremendous. And he's just flying through the grades, and well done to him. He refereed his first Premiership game not too long ago. To say this is only his second year, absolute credit to him. And there's just a little signal out there to everybody who is not really wanting to play anymore because of whatever age, but has the wise old head of being a referee, is take it up, because there's an example for you from Rob Slinger.
Excellent to hear. Well, let's take a quick look through the Combination League, starting with Canada Life Combi 1. This was the league most affected today by the conditions. Only 2 of the scheduled 5 games went ahead. The postponed games, due to waterlogged pitches: Uni Mills versus Russian United, Onken versus Douglas High School Old Boys, and Ayr United versus Peel, all called off today due to unfit pitches. But we had 2 games that went ahead, and they were Corinthians versus Laxey and Douglas Royal versus St John's, Tony.
Yeah, and I think certainly today, Corinthians 2, Laxey 4, and I'm just trying to get that one checked, because the scoreline that I had coming through, it did finish up 4-2 Laxey, but I haven't got the goal scorers for either team, so if you could text us through 166 177 and we'll give them a mention.
And Douglas Royal and St John's, that's quite the thriller there, wasn't it? 9 goals in that one.
That was an absolute belter. I don't know how the scoring went, but for Douglas Royal, James Clark with 1, Andy Curfey got the 2nd, Stuart Foley with the 3rd goal for Douglas Royal. But St John's really strong to say that they're a promoted side this season into the Combination 1. And Kieran Brock, first team player, got a couple of goals. Lewis Taylor got 2. Joe Savage with 1. And I think he's the team's leading goal scorer. Liam Sale completed the scoring off with a 6-3 victory.
Very well, rounding things off, last but certainly not least, DPS Limited Combination 2. 2 games were called off there of the 4 that were due to take place. The games that were postponed due to unfit pitches were Braddon versus Castletown and Maloo versus St Mary's, so they didn't take place today, but we had 2 that went ahead. And Douglas and District against Michael United, and Ramsey Youth Centre versus Pulrose.
Yeah, and that information I was giving you about the 2 penalty misses for D&D, that might have actually been in this game, just flicking through it. But certainly Ash Humphrey got the goal for Douglas and District. And let me see if I can find out the goal scorers for Michael Comby. No, they've not come through. But the Ramsey Youth Centre 2, Pulrose 2. It was 1-0 to Pulrose at half-time. No goal scorers through for Pulrose. But for Ramsey Youth Centre, you know how to pronounce his surname. Adrian.
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 We'll stick with Adrian. I don't want Adrian to be listening and I get it wrong and I say something that is just completely out of there.
Egan Stone got the second one then.
Yes, absolutely. Well, those are your footballing results for Saturday. There are games tomorrow in the Canada Life Woods Cup and the Masters Football. That isn't the end of our football conversation this evening. As you heard earlier, we do have a draw to take place here. It is for the first round of the GH Corlett Woods Cup. We will have the live draw of the GH Corlett Woods Cup now to come, so that is not the end of our football discussion. So Tony, could you just tell us which teams are in it and how the format's going to work for this round?
Yeah, thanks again. It's primarily a Division 2 competition. It's the GH Corlett Woods Cup. This is the first round. The games take place next week, and there's 3 games to come out the hat. We need 6 teams. There's 11 entered, and people say, why not 13? Obviously, Maloo don't have a first team, and also Pulrose don't have a first team. So that's why we're down to 11. And these games kick off 1:15 next Saturday. So Ben Cunningham's going to do the draw, and the first one out. Number 5 is Douglas and District.
Number 11.
And they will play St Mary's.
Number 3.
Number 3 is a home tie for Colby.
Against number 2.
Number 2, Southern Derby, Castletown.
Number 9.
Number 9 is Michael. And the last one, please.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Douglas Athletic. So the draw for the first round of the GH Corlett Woods Cup next Saturday is Douglas and District will have a home game against St Mary's. Colby will play Castletown, and the final fixture for the first round is Michael at home against Douglas Athletic.
So therefore, Tony, could you just confirm those teams that will be getting a bye in this round?
Certainly can. So the byes will be Braddon, Foxdale, Governors Athletic, Gyms, and I think it's Ramsey Youth Centre. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it.
Excellent. So there is your draw for the first round of the GH Corlett Woods Cup. So if you missed it just a moment ago, the 3 fixtures to take place will be Douglas and District versus St Mary's, Colby versus Castletown, and Michael versus Douglas Athletic. And just finally, Tony, could you let us know when these games are going to be played, if they've been scheduled?
Next Saturday. That's the plan, because we've got to try and get these in for Good Friday, because the final is usually played on Good Friday. We've got the FA Cup going as well, so a massive fixtures that are taking place at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, Tony, thank you very much as always, and we'll be catching up with you very soon. Pleasure as always.
Manx Radio Sport.
Okay, moving on to rugby now. A busy day in Manx rugby as well, with 3 of the Ireland sides involved in the UK competitions this weekend, and also the newly formed Ravenscroft Manx Trophy competition taking place this weekend as part of a efforts to tackle player unavailability in the sport. It's an issue that's not exclusive to the Isle of Man. It's being seen over the UK as well, but to make sure that the teams are getting as much game time, the players are getting as much game time as possible throughout the season. Well, hopefully we can now cross over to Manx Radio's rugby correspondent, Dave Christian. Well, Dave, thank you very much for joining us. Hello.
Hi, yeah, good evening. It's nice to be in the warm, to be honest, Rob.
Oh, hello. Have we still got you there, Dave?
Yeah, sorry. Microphone cable just fell out. Yes, Douglas were on the top of the pile this afternoon. They were away at Altrincham Kersal. The Kersal's pitch had taken a battering in the recent rain, and the game was switched to a 4G surface at Lim to make sure it went ahead. The 2 sides were tied for 8th place in the standings, but this bonus point win this afternoon for Altrincham Kersal, they came out 26-15 winners. That sees them jump clear of Douglas, who drop into 9th place. For Douglas, Bryn Snellgrove and Craig McGee picked up the tries, with Luke Highland converting one and adding a penalty. And next week, Douglas have got to look forward to the visit of the league leaders and Selmians, who come to Portasheen next Saturday afternoon. Up at Vagabonds, it was a slightly different kettle of fish. Vagabonds haven't had any recent results that have gone in their way, but they had their fingers crossed this afternoon. Ellesmere Port were the visitors. They'd lost by a point in the away match. They were hoping to do better this afternoon, but it didn't quite go their way, and the visitors won 10-3. Cam Finley picked a penalty for Vagabonds midway through the first half. That put them in front, but shortly afterwards, Ellesmere Port hooker Joe Grant went in. Joe Lader converted his try, and that seen the teams turn around, with Ellesmere Port holding a 7-3 lead. The only score in the second half was a second successful kick for Joe Lader, this time a penalty, and that gave them the 10-3 win, and leaves Vagabonds still 8 points adrift at the foot of the table, and not really looking to see where their next points could come from. The stats show they've had 3 losing bonus points, which means they've finished within 7 points of their opposition 3 times, so there are points out there for them. They've just got to knuckle down and get them. On the adjacent pitch at Ballafletcher, Southport were the visitors to take on Vagabonds ladies in women's NC1 Northwest. Southport, the unbeaten league leaders, they've dropped 1 point out of a maximum of 30, and the writing was on the wall pretty much from the start. Southport flanker Amelia McEwen went over for a try in the first minute of the game, and it was the first of 7 she ran in this afternoon, all on her own. She also picked up a hat-trick against Vagabonds earlier on in the season, so that's a good return for her, 10 tries in the 2 matches against Vagabonds. For the visitors as well, there were also tries from Pip Birchall, Rachel Porter, and a penalty try, and Faye Gaskin weighed in with 6 conversions. Vagabonds, though, showed a little bit of grit, and they were definitely capable of upsetting the Southport apple cart. Jess Swales dived over in the first half for a try, and Corinna Daly finished off a move late in the second half for their second try of the match. Vagabonds travel away to Eccles next week in an eminently winnable game, and they'll definitely want to put this one behind them. And finally, in the new Luke Ravenscroft Manx Trophy, 2 games and 2 wins, as you would expect. Ramsey's Reds won 57-12 at Poulson Park in their link-up with Castletown and Western Vikings. And at Ballakillia Park, in Southern Nomads Greens won 60 points to 24 against the Ramsey Blues and the Eastern Barbarians combo. At Poulson Park, Braden Roach got a hat-trick for Ramsey. Connor Cracknell and Greg Ratcliffe got 2 tries each. And there are also scores from Johnny Dean, Henry Swithenbank and Eddie Lord. Dale Ratcliffe, Connor Cracknell and Eddie Lord converting. Ratcliffe 4, Cracknell 1 and Lord 1. Down at Ballakillia, 2 tries apiece for Finn McGregor and Tom Collister for the Southern Nomads Greens. And also a hat-trick from Ori Watterson back again from injury. Tony Quinn and the evergreen Tom Davies also chipped in with tries, with Mark Young adding the conversions. And for the visitors, the Ramsey Blues and Eastern Barbarians combo, Ben Hardman went in for 2 tries, and there were also scores from Joe Flanagan and Josh Catine, with 2 conversions from Brandon Atchison.
Thank you very much, Dave. Well, just taking a look at a couple of those results, let's look at Altrincham Kersal versus Douglas. Well, when the two sides played each other at Portashee earlier in the campaign, Douglas were victorious that day. So what do you think maybe changed this time around that meant the Manx side weren't able to get the result this weekend?
Well, it's going to be a combination, I think, Rob. First of all, Altrincham Kersal may not have been able to bring their A side, if you like, your full-strength team. They may not have been able to bring that to Portashee earlier on. This afternoon, we know Douglas were pretty close to their A side. So the game probably today is a bit more of an accurate reflection of the way in which perhaps the first one should have gone if it was first team proper against first team proper. That said, your first team is your first team on the day. That's not an excuse for anybody. In addition to that, the travel is inconvenient at best, certainly disruptive for the players. You've got to be up early for that flight. You're away for the full day. You don't get into your normal pre-match rituals in quite the same way as you would do for a home game. And in addition to that, of course, there was disruption for Altrincham Kersal as well, because their pitch was waterlogged and the game was switched to the 4G surface at Lim. In rugby union, it's not a common thing to play on a 4G surface, and that's going to add disruption for both sides, and it's really going to be down to which team takes advantage of the conditions and the playing surface in the best way possible and the quickest way possible. It's likely that Kersal have used that 4G surface on a number of occasions before, whereas a 4G surface for a game of rugby union is quite a rare event, certainly down at this level of the game.
And taking a look then at Vagabonds versus Ellesmere Port in the Counties 3 ADM Lancs Cheshire division. Vagabonds, it's been a very tough season for them so far. I know you, Dave, when we were chatting about this on Friday Sport Preview last night, you thought this might have been Vagabonds a little bit of a sniff in this one to try and get some points back, but it's not been the case today.
Yeah, I mean, it could well be that we had a good game that was ruined by the weather, because that strong gusting wind made life very, very difficult for everybody. A little bit of a kick in lottery. You've got the wind behind you. You can kick for territory, but you just kick it or overcook it a little bit too far, and suddenly you've got to scrum back to wherever the kick was taken from. So it's a mixed bag, the strong wind. Vagabonds should be accustomed to the conditions up there at Ballafletcher, though, because it's generally catches a draft, is the best way to describe it. It's a perennially windy place. They should, and perhaps we'll look back and think they should have done better than they did. They had pretty much a full-strength side out. I know Ross Pullman wasn't there. He was watching. He's still nursing a knee injury. But aside from that, that was pretty much them they've got out. Ellesmere aren't going to set the world on fire to get promotion. They're not likely to get relegation either. And that's on the basis of the points they've already picked up. So a bit of a almost a dead rubber even at this stage of the season for Ellesmere.
Well, Dave, we seem to be just losing you a little bit. Sorry to interrupt there. I don't know whether the mic connection is having a couple of gremlins again.
Strong side, but perhaps not their strongest, and Vagabonds just not quite getting it right on the day, and more work to do. There's not many up points, but the three.
Links are up there. I don't know whether the mic connect.
It could well be. Let me just click that. Vagabond's got a little bit of work to do in. They've not got and 8 points adrift at the foot of the table, even with 3 losing bonus points, which suggests they're not that far away. It could be just the end of the season is going to come too soon for them, and they might need a drop down to the lower league for a regroup next season.
Very well. We'll come on to just the final fixture in the teams competing in UK competitions. Vagabonds ladies, a good season so far for them in the Women's NC1 Northwest, up against the runaway league leaders Southport. Tough game today, Southport 69-10 winners. But did Vagabonds give a good account of themselves today?
Yeah, pretty much, Rob, pretty much. I'm just looking at my notepad here for the half-time score, 29-5 at half-time. Southport have got some exceptional players there. There's a couple of players in there who've played International Rugby League for Wales. Just looking through their bio of the team, I think that the centre that scored, Pip Birchall, she's been involved with the International Rugby League setup. And the back row, Amelia McEwen, running in 7 tries. They looked to get the ball to her as quick as they could. And when I've been looking through the Southport's previous results, Amelia McEwen's not just popped up in the back row, but she's also played on the wing and on the centre. So she's one of these players who's multi-talented, can pop up in any position and score tries. She's got a great turn of pace this afternoon. You take her 7 tries out of the equation, and suddenly you've got a 34-10 score, and that's a lot closer than a 69-10 result. Vagabonds will pick up points. They've played Southport twice. They don't have to play them again this season. Southport will undoubtedly get promoted, and Vagabonds may have a better run at things next season.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Just to round things off, obviously we had 2 fixtures in the newly formed Ravenscroft Manx Trophy this weekend. Castletown versus Ramsey Reds and Western Vikings, and then Southern Nomads Greens against Ramsey Blues and Eastern Barbarians. This cluster format brought in with the Ravenscroft Manx Shield was stopped in time last weekend, trying to sort out this issue of player availability, which is not unique to the Isle of Man. It is only the first weekend, so early days, but have you had any particular feedback as to how the format worked today for the first time in this Manx Trophy competition?
I normally get my feedback on competitions when we go to the pub on Saturday night, and undoubtedly that's where I'll get the bulk of it. It's important that the players get 15-a-side rugby. It wasn't quite working in the Manx Shield. I'm not convinced on this formula either. However, it seems to be working in other parts of the UK. The organising committee have got to do something to try and stop walkovers and called off games. This appears to be one solution. The players themselves, I'll chat to the Ramsey players tonight to see what they thought. I'll get some feedback from the other clubs during the week. It's difficult to say. It's incredibly difficult to set it up on the RFU's computer system. I'm still wrestling with that now. Time will tell. What we look at in rugby is not necessarily what you've got now, it's what we've got tomorrow. And looking through Ramsey's database, we can see that there's strong age groups, the under-13s and the under-15s. And what we've got to do is try and keep a competition format that means that there's something there for them when they graduate to play senior rugby, which won't be too far away now. So there's plenty of youth coming through. We've just got this temporary slowdown. It's almost like a bulge in a hosepipe. There's very little water coming out at the end, but suddenly in a little bit of time passes, there'll be a big gush come out, and that's what we're waiting for really. When those young players come into the senior game, that should help us expand a little bit, and hopefully we'll see Douglas and Vagabonds running 2 teams each again in the very near future.
Dave Christian, as ever, thank you very much for that report. OK, we now move on to the hockey fixtures. The men's and ladies' seasons got underway for 2023 this Saturday with games from the respective Premier Leagues down to the respective Division 2s taking place, as well as the mixed under-15s division returning. Well, he's been waiting very patiently as ever. Well, he was part of the draw earlier on, but now he takes the spotlight. Ben Cunningham, very good evening to you. Welcome back.
Happy New Year. Yeah, I know.
We say Happy New Year. It's been 2 weeks, but we've just not had a chance to catch up, have we?
No, but I mean, all the England hockey games as well have only just kicked off this weekend. So, Happy New Year.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive straight into it because we've got a lot to get through. So let's start with the results from the respective men's and ladies divisions. This weekend, we'll start with the Ladies Premier League. And the early pushback in the Ladies Premier League was at 12:35 between Valkyries A and Castletown A. And Castletown A winners by 3-1 at King William's College.
Yeah, Zoe Shimon with 1, Amy Sellers with 1, and Helena Allen with 1 for Castletown A. And for Valkyries A, it was Emily Kelly with a goal, but great result and a good start for Castletown A.
And Valkyries A in the Ladies Premier League, we're always associating them with pushing toward the top of the table, battling away with Vikings A. Not the greatest of starts for them, but you can't take it on just this one result alone, can you?
Yeah, it's the first weekend back, and I think everybody today is probably feeling the Christmas feeling. So yeah, they'll bounce back, I reckon, next week. We'll see.
And the other game in the Ladies Premier League was at 2:05, Backers A versus Castletown B. That was at Castle Rushen High School. Backers A winners, only slightly, by 2-1.
Yeah, and Castletown B have really made a strong statement here because they were promoted up to the Premier League from winning Division 1 last season. And to be just losing 2-1 to Backers A, that's a strong statement. Backers A goal scorers were Donna Harrison and Charlotte Fisher. And for Castletown B, it was Sophie Van Hooven.
Very well, let's move on to the Men's Premier League. All the games pushed back here, 3 games in fact, pushing back at 12:35, all of them. Let's start over at the NSC, where Backers B hosted Valkyries A. Valkyries A winners by 3-1.
Yeah, I umpired this game, and it was very end-to-end. I mean, Valkyries A, it took them at least near enough to the end of the first half to actually get past Backers B. Backers B were defending really well, and, credit to them because they put up a really strong effort today. For Valkyries A, it was Oscar Lace with 1, Lewis Novus Smith with 1, and Chris Thomas with 1. And for Backers B, it was Craig Lees.
Very well, then we move on to Castle Rushen High School, where Castletown A took on Vikings A. Now, when we spoke on Friday Sport Preview, Ben, this was one of the games you picked out as a potential pick of the ties, where a Vikings A side could very well be caught out by the quality in Castletown A, and that's proven to be the case today. Castletown A, great start to the season for them. They're winners by 2-1 today.
And what did we say in that preview? Don't rule out a Castletown team. It's proven it today. Joe Savage with 1 and George Powell with 1 for Castletown A. And then for Vikings, it was Ryan Holgan with 1. But yet again, Castletown A, just Castletown teams in general, they're surpassing my predictions.
And so early on as well. Well, we move on to the other game at 12:35. That was up north at Ramsey Grammar School. Ramsey A hosting defending champions Backers A. And Backers A really sending a statement yet again at the start of the season. An emphatic win up at Ramsey Grammar School. Backers A beating Ramsey A by 13-0.
Yeah, I wouldn't like to have been on the Ramsey team today in that game. Credit to Ramsey A for sticking out at it, but Backers A, that's a really strong statement. Elliot Reid with 3, Tony Bentley Roberts with 3, Carl Moore with 2, Carl Moore with 4, Chris Whiting with 2, and Tom Lynch with 1.
Very well, let's move on to Ladies Division 1 then. At 2:05 at QE2, it was a battle of the B teams between Valkyries B and Vikings B. Valkyries B coming out on top by 4-2.
Yeah, Steph Coftier with all 4 goals for Valkyries B, and then for Vikings B, it was Morven Smith and Becca Kelly.
And then another entertaining game as well at 2:05 up at Ramsey Grammar School between Ramsey A and Backers B in this division, a 3-3 draw.
Yeah, that's a really strong game there. Charlotte Brooks with 2, and Sophie Cosgrave with 1 for Ramsey A. And for Backers B, it was Sam Franklin, Lucy Cartwright, and Sienna Milbaugh.
And in the other game in the division, 3:35 at the NSC between Backers C and Harlequins A. Not quite as close this one. In fact, an emphatic victory for Harlequins A, beating Backers C by 12-0.
Yeah, Backers C just promoted up into this league, and they were against a very strong outfit today. Harlequins A, who just missed out on promotion last season. Rachel Middleton with 3, Emily Middleton with 5, Hannah Nuttall with 1, Gemma Quayle with 1, and Lucy Passy with 2.
Very well, let's move on to Men's Division 1. 12:35 pushback today at QE2 was Valkyries B versus Vikings B. Another battle of the B teams, and Valkyries coming out on top in this battle of the B teams as well in Men's Division 1, winning by 3-1 against Vikings B.
Yeah, Mike Fowles with 1, Mike Deal with 1, and Vaughan Butchlow with 1 for Valkyries B. Apologise if I got your name wrong there. And then for Vikings B, it was Alex Andrew.
And then, well, there's been a couple of big victories in the divisions, and there's been the same again in Men's Division 1. It was an intra-club derby between Harlequins B and Harlequins A at the NSC at 2:05 today. And the A team really shown their class today. A bit of a harsh lesson for the B team out there. Harlequins A beating Harlequins B by 11-0.
Yeah, I was part of this game. I was in the B team, and it's hard to take a hit like this, but it's our A team, and they're the stronger team. Ronan Santanatolia with 4, Corey Corker with 3, George Ratcliffe with 3, Paul Nuttall with 1, and Oren Blakemore with 1.
And then we move on to Ladies Division 2. The early game in this division at 11:05 was Castletown D versus Valkyries C at Castle Rushen High School, and another Castletown team getting a win. Castletown D 2, Valkyries C 1.
Yeah, coming 2-1 win for Castletown D, overcoming Valkyries C, who I thought might have just got this one. Katie Nichols and Eden Cannell with a goal each for Castletown D, and then for Valkyries C it was Michelle Poyser.
And then Castletown C, the other team in this division from the Castletown Club in Ladies Division 2 in action. They were at King William's College to take on Vikings C at 2:05. All square here, 1 goal apiece.
Yeah, all square, so it must have been a really, really close game this. Emily Stereopoulos with Vikings C's goal, and then Fern Bagazzi for Castletown C.
And the later pushback in this division at 3:35 was Ramsey B versus Harlequins B at the NSC. Ramsey B winners by 3-1.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of this game just before I left the NSC, and it was quite end-to-end, and the 3-1 result, it shows it really. Lee Gell with 2 and Becky Wheeman with 1. And then she claims she's retired, but she isn't. Ali Middleton with a solo goal for Harlequins.
Very well, moving on to Men's Division 2. We had 2 games scheduled, but one game has been called off and was called off the other day. Backers C versus Ramsey B. That game called off. Backers C, unfortunately, unable to field a team. But another game did go ahead in Men's Division 2 today. That was 3:35pm at Castle Rushen High School between Backers Colts and Castletown B. And Castletown B winners by 3-0.
Yeah, 2 goals for Owen Kennedy and Paul Kelly with a goal for himself. And that rounds off a 3-0 win for Castletown B.
And then last but certainly not least, we had 3 games in the Mixed Under-15s League, which resumed as well this weekend. We'll start with one of the early pushbacks, 11:05 between Valkyries and Harlequins at the NSC. Harlequins making the early statement in the resumption of this league, winning against Valkyries by 6-0.
Yeah, and I must say it's really great to see Valkyries having an Under-15s team back in the Under-15s League. They didn't have one up to Christmas because they wanted to give their players a chance to play in the senior leagues to get a taste of it. And, 6-0, I caught a bit of this game, and 6-0 doesn't say how well Valkyries played today. Valkyries really defended well, and credit to them, especially on their first game. Caleb Blakemore with 1, Molly Swales with 2, Joey Wright with his first Under-15s goal, Emma Washford and Killian Down with goals each.
And the other early pushback, 11:05 as well, in the Mixed Under-15s, was Backers against Ramsey Rogues and Rascals at QE2 in Peel. Backers, comprehensive winners, they won by 7-0.
Yeah, George Lees with 3, Nicole Aston-Burn with 2, and Carl. I can't read your writing there. Have you got it on your sheet?
So the scorers were George Lees with a hat-trick, Nicole Astel-Berts with 2, and then Cal Joyce with 2.
Cal Joyce with 2, there you go.
There we go. And one final game that was remaining, we were awaiting this result earlier on, 3:35, Castletown Sharks versus Vikings at King William's College. Ben, do we have an update on that one?
Sadly, we don't. I have tried chasing it, but if you could let us know, we might get it when we're doing the draws, but we'll see.
Absolutely. Well, if anyone is listening out there and does have the scoreline for Castletown Sharks versus Vikings in the mixed under-15s today at King William's College, please do text us 166 177 and we'll look to get that out there for you. Well, for now, those are the results from the Saturday hockey games on the Isle of Man for you. But just as is the case with the football, we are not finished yet because we also have the draw for the first round of fixtures for the Men's and Ladies Cup, Plate and Bowl competitions. Actually, before we get to that, Ben, because we were talking about this when we came on air, just to mention about the fixtures today, we've had quite a lot of compliments and quite a lot of praise for the umpires.
Yeah, and as an umpire myself, it's really nice to see, positive feedback. Of course, it's the first games back, so everyone's probably a bit rusty and just, burning off the old Christmas dinner. But, it's really nice to see lots of positive comments about the umpiring, because we've got umpires which just started this season and they're getting put, doing senior games. But it's really nice just hearing loads of positive comments. I mean, I could have read about umpteen messages today but all of them all had thank you to the umpires, credit the umpires, brilliant umpiring. It was, it's brilliant, and I'm sure Peter Foxton, who's in charge of the Hockey Association, will be really proud to hear that today.
Very good news indeed. Okay, let's move on to the matter of the cup draws. We'll start with the ladies' competitions. So we have the first round draws for the cup, trophy and bowl. We will start with the cup, Ben. So can you tell us who's going to be in the draw? How many teams have we got for this one?
Okay, so in the cup, we've got 5 teams. We've got Backers A, Castletown A, Castletown B, Valkyries A and Vikings A. So 2 teams will play each other, and then the other 3 have got byes into the next round.
Very well. In which case, we have your assistant sat next to us as well. So please do the honours and get us underway.
Go on then.
Number 4.
Number 4 is Valkyries A.
And number 2.
Against Castletown A. So that means byes for Backers A.
And number 3.
Castletown B.
And then number 5.
Vikings A.
So that is the first draw for the Ladies Hockey Cup, and the one fixture to take place there, if you just missed that, is Valkyries A. They'll be at home to Castletown A, and then 3 teams with a bye to the following round. They are Backers A, Castletown B and Vikings A. Okay, let's move straight on and look to the ladies' trophy as well. So, Ben, what's the format for this one?
So with 5 teams again, we've got Backers B, Harlequins A, Ramsey A, Valkyries B and Vikings B. 4 teams will play each other and 1 team will get a bye into the next round.
Very well. Do the honours once more.
Number 3.
Ramsey A.
And number 1.
Against Backers B.
Number 2.
Harlequins A.
Against number 4.
And that's Valkyries B. So the bye will be for
number 5.
Vikings B.
So that is the draw for the Manx Hockey Ladies Trophy. So that is Ramsey A versus Backers B, Harlequins A versus Valkyries B, and Vikings B getting a bye to the next round. We now move on to the Ladies Bowl as well. This is a new competition across the ladies and men's divisions for the 2023 season. It'll be contested by the Division 2 clubs as well. So, Ben, who have we got in today's draw?
So we've got 5 teams again in this one. Castletown C, Ramsey B, Valkyries C, Castletown D and Vikings C. Again, 4 teams will play each other and 1 team will get a bye into the next round.
Very well, let's get the draw for the Ladies Bowl underway.
Number 2.
Is Ramsey B.
Against number 3.
Valkyries C.
Number 4.
Castletown D.
Against number 1.
Against Castletown C.
And then number 5.
And that's Vikings C get a bye into the next round.
Okay, so that's the draw for the Ladies Bowl, which is Ramsey B versus Valkyries C and Castletown D versus Castletown C, with a bye into the next round for Vikings C. Okay, before we move on to the men's draw, Ben, any of those fixtures that particularly stand out for you? Any particular that catch your eye?
Well, in the cup, that that the game between Valkyries A and Castletown A, it's a repeat of today, so this could go either way. I'm sure Castletown will love to get another one over Valkyries A, but in the plate, I think, to be honest, all the games in the plate are pretty close. That Harlequins A against Valkyries B, that'll be a quite tasty game, I reckon. And then in the bowl, Castletown Derby, I think that'll be a proper good game, that.
Yeah, both in the same league, of course, this season. So that could be very interesting with that Castletown D. Obviously, great day for them as well. You're the newly formed side. Okay, let's move on to the men's cup, plate and bowl competitions. So we'll start in the men's hockey with the cup. So Ben, tell us which teams are in the draw today.
Okay, so we've got 6 teams in this one. We've got Backers A, Backers B, Castletown A, Ramsey A, Valkyries A and Vikings A. So 4 teams will be drawn out to play each other and 2 will get byes into the next round.
Very well. Well, let's get the draw for the men's cup underway.
Okay.
Number 5
is Valkyries A
against number 4.
Ramsey A.
Number 1
Backers A
against number 2.
Backers B. So that means we've got byes for
Number 6
Vikings A
and number 3.
and Castletown A.
Okay, so roundup of the men's hockey cup draw. Valkyries A versus Ramsey A. Backers A versus Backers B. And byes into the next round for Vikings A and Castletown A. We now move on to the men's plate competition. So, Ben, as usual, just take us through the teams that will be taking
So
part.
we've got 5 teams in this one. Harlequins A, Harlequins B, Valkyries B, Vikings B and Vikings C. 2 teams will be drawn out to play each other and 3 will get byes into the next round.
Very well, let's get the men's plate draw underway.
Number 3
is Valkyries B
against number 5.
Vikings C. So that's byes for
Number 4.
that's Vikings B,
Number 2.
Harlequins B,
Number 1.
Harlequins A.
Okay, so that's the draw for the men's plate. So just to go over that again, the one tie taking place in the first round of fixtures, Valkyries B versus Vikings C. And then we have byes into the next round for Vikings B, Harlequins A and Harlequins B. And last but certainly not least, we move on to the men's bowl competitions, the Division 2 sides taking part in that in the men's divisions. So, Ben, which teams have we got involved?
So we've got 4 teams in this one. Backers Colts, Castletown B, Ramsey B and Castletown C. And 4 teams, so everyone will be drawn out to play each other.
Very well, so for the last time, we'll get the draw underway, and this time for the men's bowl.
Number 4
is Castletown C,
against number 3.
Ramsey B,
And then number 2
Castletown B
against number 1.
against Backers Colts.
So those are the fixtures for the first round of the mix of the men's bowl competition. Castletown C versus Ramsey B and Castletown B versus Backers Colts. So looking at the men's fixtures there, Ben, any in particular that jump out to you?
Well, in the cup, Backers A against Backers B, that'll be a feisty affair, I can imagine. The plate, that game, Valkyries B against Vikings C, that'll be a close game. And then in the bowl, I think both them games are going to be close as well. I think, some very good ties been drawn up.
Okay, well, let's just go over all the fixtures then that we've just drawn out for both the ladies and men's cup, plate and bowl competitions if you missed them before. We'll start with the ladies hockey competitions, starting with the cup. And the solitary fixture in the ladies cup in the first round will be Valkyries A versus Castletown A, with byes to the next round for Backers A, Castletown B and Vikings A. In the ladies plate, the 2 fixtures taking place in the first round of fixtures, Ramsey A versus Backers B, Harlequins A versus Valkyries B, and the bye to the next round goes to Vikings B. And then in the ladies bowl competition, 2 fixtures taking place with 1 team going through on a bye. And the 2 fixtures are Ramsey B versus Valkyries C. And Castletown D versus Castletown C, and Viking C have a bye into the following round. So moving on to the men's hockey cup competition, starting with the cup. The fixtures to be played, 2 fixtures to be played, and they will be Valkyries A versus Ramsey A, Backers A versus Backers B, and then byes into the next round for Vikings A and Castletown A. And then we move on to the men's plate. 1 fixture to take place in this round of fixtures, and that is Valkyries B versus Vikings C. And there are byes for 3 teams into the following round, which are Vikings B, Harlequins A, and Harlequins B. And last but certainly not least, in the men's bowl competition, all 4 teams involved in this opening round of fixtures, and it is Castletown C versus Ramsey B, and Castletown B versus Backers Colts. So those are your draws for the cup competitions to come. So Ben, just a couple of questions before we wrap things up. So in terms of these fixtures for the cup competitions, when do we expect them to be played?
These fixtures are going to be played as midweek games. Basically, we've not got many Saturdays which we can slot them in with all the things going on as well. So these are going to probably get played during like when teams would normally have their training slots. So these results will probably come in towards midweek. So as and when we get them, we'll let you know.
And finally as well, as we just alluded to before the draw started, the bowl competition coming in this year for the Division 2 sides. How good an incentive is that for these Division 2 teams to be fighting for silverware as well as the teams in the leagues above?
You've said it there. It gives the Division 2 teams something to fight for, and it makes it more interesting instead of being up against a higher division team and then eventually, they just turn up and it's unfortunately like maybe a 13 just nail defeat. But it gives the Division 2 teams something to really look at and go, hang on, we could probably get this.
Because it's always a tricky one, isn't it? Unless maybe sometimes this may be the case for some people, but if you're fighting towards the top or fighting towards the bottom, like you say, you've already got that incentive to to keep yourself in the game for whatever you're pushing for. But maybe if you're mid-table as well, it could be seen as a very good season for some teams. But if you've just got that extra little bit to fight for, it can just create a little bit more competition, healthy competition within clubs
absolutely.
as well.
Yeah, definitely. And you've hit the nail right on the head there. It gives the Division 2 teams something to look at because they might not have a good league campaign, but there's nothing saying that they could focus on maybe trying to get their hands on the bowl. We wait and see, but it's gonna be interesting.
Excellent. Well, Ben, thank you very much as always. As always, an absolute pleasure. And many thanks to Tony Mepham and Dave Christian today as well. That is all from us on Saturday Sport Classified on Manx Radio AM 1368. Thank you very much for joining us. We will now be handing back over to Radio Caroline. So thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening, whatever you're doing, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. So until next time, from me, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.